Madagascar in uproar. Gen Z, military, and the fall of a president. In recent weeks, Madagascar has been shaken to its core. What began as protests over chronic power and water outages has swelled into a full-blown political crisis, ending in the apparent ouster of President Andry Rajoelina. At the heart of the storm is Gen Z Madagascar, a largely leaderless youth movement driven by frustration with corruption, economic stagnation, and failed leadership. The turning point. The protests, which began in late September 2025, quickly gained momentum as thousands filled the streets of Antananarivo, demanding change. What transformed a movement into a revolution was when CAPSAT, Madagascar's most powerful military unit, refused to suppress the demonstrators and instead joined them. Parliament soon voted overwhelmingly to impeach Rajoelina. His attempt to dissolve the National Assembly failed, and reports suggest he has fled or is hiding in a safe place, with some claims he was flown out on a French aircraft. Colonel Michael Randrianarina, the CAPSAT commander, declared that the military had taken control, suspended key democratic institutions, and promised a transitional government that would hold elections within 2 years. The move sparked mass celebrations in the capital, though concerns remain that military rule could deepen instability. The African Union, France, and the U.S. have all urged a peaceful, constitutional resolution. The unrest has come at a high cost, at least 22 people killed and over 100 injured, according to the UN, though government sources dispute the figures. Gen Z revolutions. Youth taking the wheel. Madagascar's uprising isn't an isolated event. Around the world, young people, energized by social media and disillusioned by corruption, are rising against entrenched elites. From Africa to South Asia, Gen Z revolutions are reshaping political landscapes. Bangladesh. Earlier in 2025, tens of thousands of students and young workers took to the streets demanding an end to government corruption, police brutality, and dynastic politics. The movement forced the long-standing prime minister to resign and triggered new elections. The protests, led mostly by university students and online organizers, became a symbol of youth defiance across South Asia. Nepal. Gen Z protesters challenged government censorship and corruption, eventually toppling senior officials. Their campaign was fueled by viral online activism and campus-led strikes demanding accountability. Peru. Young activists led demonstrations over rising living costs and corruption scandals, forcing the resignation of multiple ministers and pushing the government toward early elections. Morocco. Youth-led protests erupted over inequality, joblessness, and rising food prices. Though largely peaceful, the movement exposed deep generational frustrations with the country's political elite. These movements share common DNA, leaderless structures, online coordination, and an insistence on justice and transparency rather than political allegiance. Gen Z isn't just protesting, it's rewriting the rules of engagement. What might come next in Madagascar? Madagascar is at a critical turning point following a military takeover that has cast uncertainty on its democratic future. If CAPSAT delivers on its promises, there could be a 2-year reform process leading to elections that truly reflect the people's will, with Gen Z potentially playing a key role. The army may tighten its control, delaying elections under the guise of stability, which risks reverting to authoritarian rule. Western and African nations are closely monitoring the situation, with potential sanctions looming if the transition falters. Youth movements may splinter between moderates advocating for reform and radicals calling for deeper change. Continued political or economic instability could plunge Madagascar into unrest. Gen Z's revolution has already begun reshaping the nation's landscape.